It is time for your WIN podcast for super busy professionals sharing transformational moments. Your host, Chu Tang.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Your Win podcast. Today, I have my very special friend as our guest speaker, Stuart. Welcome, Stuart.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Chu, and it's also wonderful to have another conversation with you because I think they're always enlightening.
Thank you, Stuart. So, Stuart, for today, would you share a scene in your life that transformed you forever?
Yeah, I mean, there's many things I think in everybody's lives, but there's definitely many things in my lives that happen, and you don't always realize it at that time. But sometimes it's later on that you recognize that that has been a major transformation because you're so involved in it, and it's something which you have to catch up with, if you like. And so this scene I've got, I mean, I'll just give you a very, very brief history of me. I was born in the UK and then I moved to Africa. I did an overland trip through Africa, and then there's so many experiences on that have transformed me. And I got off the ferry when we did after 6 months traveling from South Africa back to the UK through many different countries. I got off the ferry and said, I don't like it, I'm going back. So 3 months later, I was back in Africa. And I stayed there for about 18 years. And then I moved over here to China, the south of China. But there's one particular incident, which was, it was eye-opening in so many different ways. And it's only in the latter sort of few years that I've really connected to that change that it made and that opening of my mind in ways which I would never have expected. So what happened was, I love Africa. I love the wildlife. I love being outside, camping. I've had lions sniffing around the tent at night time. I've had elephants sniff me from head to toe. I've all sorts of interesting things like that with wild animals, even the small things. But this particular day, my ex-wife and I we were on a walking safari. It's actually just around Christmas. We were on a walking safari in the Timbavati area of Southern Africa, which is in the eastern part of South Africa, bordering Mozambique. And early one morning, we were out with the ranger, and he said he knows where there's an old buffalo bull. And there's 8 of us in this little walking party. And he said, you've got to be quiet, though. And I want to be next to the ranger because I want to see everything firsthand. So I made sure. And the rest of the party started separating. And, some of them were just having a chat at the back, and they weren't really connected to the environment in that way that I was. And we're going along there. And he said, getting close now. And you could smell the smell, of cows and the bovine scent, whatever, however you can explain it, but you could smell it. And we got close, and then this buffalo suddenly appeared through the bush, and it was like a mock charge.
Oh my God!
And then it stopped and looked, and then it went off and disappeared into the bush. And we'd all frozen for a while, and we spent a few minutes. Or not really minutes, about a minute or so, just waiting, making sure. And then the ranger said, it's okay, it's gone.
Okay.
So we started walking forward again, and I could see it. I could see this guy in the bush there, just watching us. I said, hey, it's there. I can see it. It's not gone. And the ranger said, no, it's not gone. I said, no, I can see it. And I was whispering as quietly and loudly as possible to get his attention. And he said, no. He says, and he stops and he's looking. He says, where is it? I said, it's over there. And then all of a sudden, the bush exploded. And this monster of a buffalo, I mean, a full-grown buffalo is about 1.5 to 2 tons. It's a big, old, mean beast. And he was looking really serious. And he was only about 30 paces away. He just exploded out of the bush. Now, I don't know what you would have done. And I don't know what anybody else was done. My ex-wife, she was off like Usain Bolt. She just gone, boom, and everybody behind her, who, as I say, they're a little bit scattered, they got floored as she ran past them, or not actually past them, through them. And they didn't know what the heck was going on. But the ranger, he dropped to the ground and got his rifle because he's, they're always armed. And I dropped with him instinctively without thinking. And he got his rifle up and he's looking how to shoot. But the problem with a buffalo is if it's attacking you, its head's down. And that horn boss they've got here is so big that it's very, very difficult to shoot and do any damage, even with a very, very high-powered rifle. So he's got to wait until he lifts its head a little bit, shoot it through its mouth or through its, its chest portion here. That's the only way it can do any damage. And if you wound it, they get even more mean. And obviously, I didn't want anything to happen to this buffalo. And this is happening. This is all racing through the mind in a split second. And then I became aware of this incredible wall of noise. I mean, I don't know whether you remember AC/DC, but they, at the time, they had, you walk into a concert and you didn't get blown away by the noise coming out. It was something like that. And it was like, what? And then I realized it was me and the ranger screaming at this buffalo. And the buffalo was totally perplexed. Number one, we disappeared. We dropped to the ground in an instant. Number two, everyone else gone. They're scattered. There's nothing there, and there's just this wall of noise in front of him. And he stopped in a split second. He just stopped dead, and then he pirouetted like a ballet dancer and shot off into the bush. And all the bushes were breaking, the tree branches were snapping, everything. He was. That, but I was so, number one, I was so relieved we didn't have to hurt him. That was important. But what I found was I was so alive in that moment. I've never felt so alive in my life. I could see things. I could see an ant 100 paces away walking in the grass. That's how powerful my eyesight was. There was never any sense of fear. There was no worry, or I didn't even think for a second I was going to get hurt or anything. It was just, it was just so connected in that moment to everything that was going on. And I could see, I could smell and everything. And it was so funny because we found everybody else after we did ascertain that the guy's really gone this time. And I think the ranger was a little bit more worried than I was. But we found everybody else. And we were all stood there chatting around like there was monkeys. Some of them, especially at the very back, they didn't even know what was going on. They had no idea. So we all collected ourselves and everything else. But I was still, obviously, it was the adrenaline and the whole thing was still in me, and I could just see things everywhere. And then we carried on walking, because we're in the middle of the bush. And then we got to an area where there was very, very high elephant type grass, they call it. And it's taller than you, so, and we had to go past it or through it or something like that. And we all of a sudden we found out there's a whole herd of buffalo in there. Oh my God. And you should have seen the ranger's face. But this wasn't a bull. This was just a herd of them. We were close. But he was really worried, and everyone else in the park. But I was just loving it. It was so exciting, just so beautiful to be connected. And what that made me realize much later, because at the time it was just excitement. What it made me realize later is how much potential we've got inside of us.
Yeah. Yes.
Without even knowing it. And that is something that we've had ever since we were born. I mean, if you think of it, when we're youngsters, about 11 months or something like that, we just decide we can walk.
Yeah.
We don't think about, I'd like to walk. We just look and we say, okay, I can walk. And then we struggle, but we do it. We find that way. And yet when we get older, for many, many reasons, we get conditioned out of that thinking. We go more into the I can't thinking. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And, it's a shame because we've got all this potential waiting. And sometimes we have to have an incident like that buffalo to wake us up.
Yeah.
We've all heard probably stories of a parent whose child's been trapped under a car and they just go up and pick the car up without even thinking. They don't know how they do it. They just do it. That's what we've got inside. We've got that potential, every single one of us, but we just have to find that way to recognize and connect to it. And that is something that we all can do, but sometimes we need external help, either from a friend, a family member, or a buffalo, or as you know, another little incident, funny story is I wasn't there. I'd love to have been there, but as I say, when I was married in South Africa, her parents, they had this house, and it's a long lounge, maybe 60 feet long, and it ends in a big bay window, with a seating under it, and that is about a yard off the ground, because the ground slopes away. And as you come into the driveway, they didn't have any big security gates or anything at the time, but as you come into the driveway, you can walk past that to get to the garden gate, or next to it there's a little bell, and they have a dog, or they had an English Bull Terrier dog, and they're about 25 kilos, and they're small, compact, but they're very, very muscular. They're beautiful dogs, really gentle. But the one thing this dog doesn't like is the bell. For some reason, the bell triggers it. And this particular day, a policeman came to take a report on a burglary at a property they owned, a holiday property they owned somewhere else in South Africa. And he came there, and natural thing is there's the bell. So he ding, 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 he's ringing the bell. And my ex-wife's father, Peter, he was watching TV in the lounge, and he heard the bell. He said, "Oh no, the bell, the bell." Yeah. The dog was at that time sleeping like this, as they do, on the youngest child's bed. And then heard the bell. Poof, he jumps up, and now he's angry because number one, it's the bell, and number two, his sleep's been disturbed. So he comes diving out of the bedroom, and he's on a carpet floor there, and he's got a lot of grip. And then it comes into the lounge. There's a 90-degree bend, but it's now gone to tiles. So it slides around there like a stock car going around the track. Hell for leather for this window. And at the same time, Peter's gone outside to tell the person, stop ringing the bell, stop ringing the bell. And he met the person, he was at the gate, and the person's just coming past the window. And then the window exploded.
Oh my God.
And there's shards of glass twinkling in the sun. And there's this dog flying through the window.
Oh my God.
And this policeman, he disappeared. In a split second before the first shard of glass had hit the floor, he'd gone. And Peter's like, what the heck happened? He's looking. The guy was on his roof, the roof of his car, which is about 10, 12, 15 feet away. He jumped in one bound from that distance to there.
To the roof of the car.
Because the dog's coming basically head height straight at him.
Oh my God.
And that policeman, he didn't know he had that in him.
Yeah.
He had no idea that he could jump like that in that instant.
Wow.
And the dog, she landed on the floor, the glass settled down, and she looked around, and she's okay. And she wagged her tail and walked off back in the house to continue sleeping. She hadn't intended to go through the window, but he got bulletproof glass or armored glass on those bits of window afterwards, just in case, because it was just a normal glass. And she got so fast that she skidded and she couldn't stop herself. That's why she came through.
And she's okay.
It was that. The dog's okay, no problem. She was happy as a lark because she had control. And the policeman, he had to have a couple of glasses of whiskey before he could go about his business. But as I say, he didn't know he had that potential.
That potential.
And this is what we've got inside of us, all of us, every single one of us. And those are just two incidents. I've had other incidences. I've been attacked by wild bees, and there's so many things which have shown me just how much potential we have. And sometimes it takes a little while for that to filter through. You're changing, but you're not aware necessarily you're changing. And that is a realization that if we can all connect to, yes, we have this potential. We just have to find the way or the trigger. And it doesn't have to be a buffalo or a dog coming through a window. We can make it more intentional without all that, fear and the drama. And that can open up the whole world for us in so many different ways.
Yeah. So I guess it's this belief that we have that potential.
Yeah. And it's that connection. And if we start by going back to our childhood and recognizing, hey, I couldn't walk, but I can walk now.
Could talk.
I just decided, talk, write, read. Those are basic things. But what about every other thing that you've achieved in your life? How
Yes.
many of us recognize those things and celebrate them because it shows that we've done that, which means we can do more. We just have to find the way. And maybe you meet something which, you've never done before. It is a challenge. And you say, I don't know how to do that. Just add on the word yet.
Yet. Don't know yet.
But I can learn because I've done all these other wonderful things and I recognize that ability I have.
Yeah. So Stuart, I'm very grateful that I met you, because that time I was struggling to start my podcast, and you're the one that keep encouraging me, just do it. Because you haven't learned it yet, but just do it. Right?
Well, that word is very powerful, that yet.
Yet.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people miss. So they get stuck in that I can't. But if I can't, that's true. Yeah. But I can learn.
Yes.
Because I've learned to walk, I've learned to talk, I've learned to write. I mean, there are many people who are more talented than me. They can speak 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 different languages and write them. I can't.
Yeah.
So, we've all got these things.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, languages, yes. And learning how to ride a bicycle, I thought was totally impossible. And all that.
But you did it.
I did
and
it.
We've all done these things. We've all got these achievements. We just need to connect to them. And that helps us to open up that potential and changes our life forever once we do.
Yeah. You remind me of an incident. My grandma, she was really old and, very weak. And then when the earthquake hit LA, she was so strong. She ran, pick up my nephew. I think my nephew was pretty heavy then. And then just dive underneath the table. And I witnessed the whole thing. I said, how could that be possible?
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's what we have, these abilities in ourselves.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's a shame that we have to have a serious incident like an earthquake or whatever to show us our innate potential. Much better that we can go back in our history and just see all the things we've achieved. And wake that potential that way. It's a far gentler way.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
So if you find this inspiring, come back to Your Win podcast. And until then, stay happy and hopeful. Thank you.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. See you soon at Your Win Podcast.